The federal minimum wage currently stands at $7.25 an hour. Dave Mercer says this is long overdue, but Elizabeth McDonald says it's only going to lead to fewer jobs. EMAC, explain this to the audience, please.
Well, this is according to analysis. This is the argument from the National Federation of Independent Businesses. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with it. I'm just reporting it back to you. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says it as well. When businesses report into them, when the minimum wage goes up, you know, the small businesses say, listen, we may not be able to create jobs because we have to raise the pay for everybody. So I'm not coming down either side of the aisle on whether this is a good or bad thing. I'm just reporting back to you what these independent groups are saying.
Well, Dave, I mean, at the end of the day, if we're talking fewer jobs, then it is a bad thing, net.
Well, you and Elizabeth are talking fewer jobs, but studies show that it doesn't lead to a negative impact on job growth, but it does increase the earnings of those that are on minimum wage, which right now the minimum wage stands at below poverty living. And so we need to have it so that we have livable wages. That's why you're seeing the movement afoot in all of these states. And what we recently saw with Governor Christie, Republican governor in New Jersey, had to got overrun by the population, which now makes it a constitutional or a part of their constitution to have a minimum wage increase.
Dave, we understand the populist argument of all of this, and that's one thing to go for to tug the heartstrings and to talk about fairness. But from a pure economics point of view, in a fragile recovery, in a fragile economy, you just can't sit there and say taking someone from $9 an hour, $7 an hour to $15 an hour doesn't wreck a small business.
It doesn't wreck the small business, and what we heard Elizabeth quote before is from the Chamber of Commerce, hardly anything to do with the small business. What we're talking about are workers.
Dave, wait,
if I might finish.
Dave, I haven't heard Dave cite any names. I haven't heard you cite any name studies supporting your side of the argument. The Chamber does hear back from small businesses. Hang on a second. You're going to hear this being more of an issue, the minimum wage, in this year, in 2014. You're going to hear the minimum wage more of an issue because the youth tend not to come out in the midterms to vote. Also, minorities who are in these jobs basically tend not to come out in the midterms to vote. This is going to be a Democrat issue. I'm not saying either side of the political aisle is right. I'm saying you're going to see this more to the forefront. We've seen disproportionate growth in low-wage jobs in this economy. The broad zoom, hang on, Dave. The broad zoom problem with the U.S. economy is the fact that it's not creating good-paying jobs. The broad zoom problem in this economy is it's not creating great-paying jobs. That's why we keep talking about extending unemployment benefits. That's why we have these arguments about minimum wage. When we saw in the 90s and early part of the last decade, the boom in job growth and great companies.
Dave, isn't this really the real argument that we should be having? Why are we discussing minimum wage in a country that used to go for the brass ring? Why aren't we growing the top so that so the same tide lifts all ships?
Why? Because, Charles, we can grow everybody rather than just at the top or exclusively at the top.
By artificially increasing wages for minimum wage jobs?
We have been holding those wages stagnant, where CEO wage or salaries are going up 100, 200, 300%. Yet the minimum wage today is equated with the minimum wage of 1950. That does not bode well for the economy when you don't have the middle class being able to afford goods and services or support their families, which, if you do boost the minimum wage, will get economic growth because demand will increase as a result of them having more in their pocket.
Dave, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I tend to sympathize absolutely with what you're saying about the minimum wage. We don't want to see the restaurant worker and, you know, the fast food restaurant worker trying to raise a family on a minimum wage. We don't want to see the retail sector worker trying to raise a family on the minimum wage. I'm saying this is symptomatic of a really bad economy that we've been struggling with for 3 years now, where we've not had solid, good, full-time jobs where people can get the pay that they need.
And we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it there. Dave, we've got to leave it there. Okay, you made some great points. We've got to leave it there. I think most people watching have always believed that these were entry-level jobs, temporary jobs as you moved up the ladder. But we got to leave it there, guys. Spirited, we appreciate it. Hey, by the way, we're hours away from Obamacare.